Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Score Settled Season 2. And now in this video, we'll be discussing very important 5 questions related to statistics and econometrics, which will prove to be extremely helpful for your UGC NET economics exam. So let's begin. The first question is that the indirect least square method is applied to estimate the coefficient of. Now, firstly, you need to understand that there are two options that are somewhat related. First is the structural equation and the second is your reduced form equation. So you need to know the difference between these two, right? And for that, you may just make a note of it, that what is the difference between the structured and the reduced form equation. Firstly, that the structural equation is the one which clearly shows the direct causal relationship. It shows the direct causal relationship between the endogenous variables, right? It shows the direct causal relationship between your endogenous variables. However, reduced form equation is such which shows that, which expresses basically the endogenous variables in the form of exogenous variables. Okay. So structural equations will show the relationship between endogenous variables, whereas the reduced form equations are representing the endogenous variables in the form of exogenous variables. So that is one crucial difference between your structural equation as well as your reduced form equation. Another difference is that your structural equation basically explains the why of the equation or of the model, that why a specific change is happening, right? Whereas your reduced form equations basically represent the what, right? What is the relationship or how is your endogenous variable reacting to your exogenous variables? So that is the main difference between your structural and your reduced form equation. So basically the answer for this question is your structural equation, that ILS is applied to estimate the coefficient of the structural equations, right? When we do not exactly know which one is your endogenous variable or which one is your exogenous variable. So we treat all the variables to be endogenous in nature. So that is the main difference. Another thing which you can note it down is with respect to your over-identified equations. Now, over-identified equations are those where your number of exogenous variables are more, right? They are more than what is necessary to estimate the parameters, the unknown parameters. So you have a lot of information that is available to you. On the other hand, your under-identified equation is that the number of endogenous variables is less, so that you do not have complete information to estimate the model. That's your under-identified equations. Now, ILS is considered to be very important from the UGC point of view, and it is a very crucial part of your econometrics, right? OLS, ILS, they're very important. Okay, so please do make a note out of it, right? Now, next question is that the management of a manufacturing firm wishes to determine the average time that is required to complete a certain manual operation. Now, there should be a 0.95 confidence that error in the estimate will not exceed 2 minutes. Firstly, the confidence level is 0.95. So you need to know the Z score of it. This should be learned by heart, right? You need to know the Z score for 0.95 or 95% confidence limits, 99%, 92%, and even in some case 90% also. right? So Z score for this 95% is 1.96. This should be very clear. You should know these values, right? For Z score, your T table, your F score, and so on. Okay. Then what we need to find is that what sample size is estimated by a time and motion study expert as 16 minutes. Now, firstly, we need to know that the tolerance level is 2 minutes, which is given, right? So, error tolerance is given as 2 minutes. Okay. Then standard deviation is given as 16 minutes. That within 16 minutes the sample size can be estimated. So standard deviation is given as 16 minutes. Now there is a direct formula for it, right? And these formulae are clearly mentioned in your study material, right? In the study material given by Economics Harbor, it is clearly mentioned, right? So you need to know these. So what is the formula? It is n is equal to Z, that is your Z score, multiplied by your standard deviation divided by your error tolerance, the whole square. So Z score we know is 1.96, standard deviation we know is 16, divided by error tolerance we know is 2, right? The whole square, it will come out to be 245.86, approximately 246, which is the answer in this case. Okay, so please here two things that you need to keep in mind: the Z score for 95%, 99%, 92% and 90%, and these respective formulae for Z and for F table, for F test, for T test and so on. Right, so these are two very important things that you need to note it down, you need to memorize before your UGC NET economics exam. Okay. Next question. Now this is a direct question, direct formula question. Okay. So if X is a Poisson variate with mean lambda, then P X plus 1 is your option 1. This is a direct formula, right? And such direct formulae, they are clearly mentioned. There's a table, they are there in your revision notes, they are there mentioned in the statistics portion, right? So please keep a note of it. The Poisson distribution, right? So this is a direct question that is there. Now, next question. A candidate is selected for interview for 3 posts. For the first post, there are 3 candidates. For the second post, there are 4 candidates. For the third, there are 2 candidates. Okay. What is the probability that the candidate is selected for at least one post? Okay. Now, probability of getting selected in post 1, say A, is 1 by 3. Okay. Because there are 3 candidates. 1 by 3. And probability of not getting selected in the first post is 1 minus 1 by 3, which is 2 by 3. Okay. Then probability of being selected in the second post is 1 by 4. Right? Probability of not being selected in the second post is 1 minus 1 by 4, which is equal to 3 by 4. Okay. And probability of being selected in third post, that is C, which is 1 by 2. And probability of not being selected is again 1 minus 1 by 2, which is 1 by 2. So probability of not being selected in any of the post will be P A dash multiplied by P B dash multiplied by P C dash, right? So we'll continue here. So it is 2 by 3 into 3 by 4 into 1 by 2. Okay, so cancelling it out, we get probability of not being selected in any of the posts is 1 by 4. But what we need to find is that what is the probability that the candidate is selected for at least one post will be, being selected in at least one post will be 1 minus 1 by 4, which is equal to 3 by 4, which is the answer. Okay. Final question is that the data about the sales and advertisement expenditure of a firm is given below, right, where mean of sales is 40 and mean of advertisement expenditure is 6, standard deviation sales is 10 and standard deviation advertisement expenditure is 1.5. So we are given coefficient of correlation to be 0.9. So we have to estimate the likely sales for the proposed advertisement of rupees 10 crore of rupees, right? So for this, first we need to find is your BXY, which is equal to nothing but your coefficient of correlation, okay, multiplied by standard deviation of X upon standard deviation of Y. So we are given this values, R is 0.9, okay, multiplied by standard deviation of X, that is your sales, is given as 10 divided by standard deviation of advertisement expenditure, the variable Y, is given as 1.5. Okay, so the value comes out to be 6 when you calculate it. Okay, now we have to estimate the likely sales for the proposed advertisement of 10 crores. So first we need to find the equation. X minus X mean is equal to BXY multiplied by Y minus Y mean. Okay, so X mean is given as 40 equal to 6 multiplied by Y minus Y mean is given as 6. Okay, so solving this we get X is equal to 6Y minus 36 and taking 40 on the other side we get plus 40, right? So X to 6 Y minus 6 plus 4. Okay, that's the final equation. Okay, here we know that Y is as 10 crores. Is given as 10 crores. So when we substitute this value in our equation, right, so we get X is equal to 6 into 10, 60 plus 4 equal to 64, which is our answer. Okay, so I hope you got something useful from this. These are very important questions from the UGC NET economic exams perspective for statistics, for econometrics. In reality, these are very, very simple questions to solve if you know the formula, right? And it may seem to be a little haunting at first, but once you get into the question, it will be very, very easy to solve, right? So I hope this was useful and we'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.